Hey everyone, welcome to Think Woodworks. I recently bought this Delta hybrid saw from one of the big box stores and I want to make a zero clearance insert plate for it, but it's really difficult to make insert plates for these. The lip around the edge just doesn't allow for using like a half-inch sheet of plywood like you can with a lot of cabinet saws. So today I'm going to show you how to do it using PVC. I'm using Schedule 40 2-inch PVC. I marked a piece just a little bit longer than my insert plate and cut a line down it with my jigsaw, took it over to the chop saw and cut that section off. Now I set my oven to 350 degrees, let it get warm, put the PVC in there and left it for a few minutes. While it was doing that, I cut some half-inch plywood pieces that I could use to flatten it out. Now when it comes out of the oven, it's really pliable and hot, so watch your fingers. Just take the PVC and sandwich it between your two pieces of plywood and then clamp it down really well. The amount of time needed to make it flexible in the oven will vary depending on where you're at. For me here in South Carolina, it took about 3 minutes. Now play around with it a little bit, and if you don't get it flat the first time, no big deal, you can always do it the second time. About 15 minutes later, the PVC had cooled and I removed it from the clamps. Then I used my insert plate as a guide and traced it out on both the PVC and a half-inch piece of plywood. Using my bandsaw, I cut around the perimeter as close as possible on both the PVC and the half-inch plywood. With everything cut out, I needed to stick them together, and I'm using fast edge speed tape from FastCap. In 25 years of woodworking, I've never found a better double-sided tape, and it comes in thicknesses from ½ inch all the way up to 5 inches wide. I stuck the PVC to the half-inch plywood, and then using fast edge again, I also stuck the insert plate out of my table saw to both the PVC and the half-inch plywood. With that done, I carefully set the depth on my flush trim router bit and then routed around the edge. Using a chisel, I carefully plied the insert plate off of my assembly and then took it over to the table saw. I drilled 2 holes in the PVC and plywood, and you'll see why here in a little bit. And then you set the insert plate in, and then using a hammer tapped it down so I could find where those little cantilevered edges come out into the table saw housing. With that done, carefully pried off the PVC, and this is why I'm using PVC. It's a perfect thickness, so it's flush. Using my chisel to remove the rest of the speed tape, and then drilled out some holes where those cantilevered edges came out on plywood. With that done, I took it over to the bandsaw and cut out those little sections, and then went around and trimmed the edge down by a little less than ¼ inch all the way around, so it'll fit right into the table saw itself. And then where those 2 holes I drilled, I used 2 small drill bits to position them, pried them apart a little bit, added some 2p.v.c gel, sprayed on some hardener, and then quickly sandwiched them in place. And that's why I used the drill bits to help everything get lined up. Next, I countersunk some holes, about 4 down each side of where the blade will protrude through for some extra support. And I made sure the countersink was deep enough that the screw heads would be flush or below. Now, because my hands are so big, I like to use a tip magnet whenever I'm using small screws like this. Makes it really easy, especially if you do a lot of cabinet hardware. Now with my insert plate, there was a little tiny bit of play back and forth, so I added a screw right at the front edge of it, and then I just adjusted it until I had a nice, really tight fit of that insert plate. The last thing to do is cut the slot for the blade. Now, because the 10-inch blade will interfere with that insert, I stuck a couple of 7¼ inch blades in my table saw, raised it up, and cut the initial slot. When that was done, I removed the 7¼ inch blades, put the 10-inch blade back in, and repeated the process. Now the insert plate is ready to go. My PVC zero clearance insert plate is done and working great. I'd like to thank you for watching. If you found this video useful, please subscribe and give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to check me out on my other social media. I'll leave links in the description box below. A lot of times what I do is post videos and pictures of builds as they're happening so you can see what's going on in the shop, like this one. I'd also like to thank FastCap for showing their love, and if you'd like to try out some of their products that I used today in this video, you can find links in the description box below.